Pity Abbas. Do not mock him. He has lived as an orphan for most of his life, shamed by his family's legacy. He is desperate for power, because he is powerless.
I will have the apple, Altair, and I will have your head for all the dishonor you brought upon my family. You cannot run forever, not from us, and not from your lies!
Assassin's Creed has a lot of villains. Some are exceptional and some are pretty forgettable. Take Cesare Borgia for example, a villain that we can all remember because it's just that memorable. Then you have the likes of Crawford Starrick, who had the potential but did not live up to it. The villains in this franchise are hit and miss, but if we dive deep into the darkest corners of the Assassin's Creed franchise, there's one character that's not even the main villain of any game, but he's a character that in my opinion is by far the most sinister of them all, and that character's name is Abbas Sofian, a character who's not just bad, in fact he's the epitome of pure evil, a character who almost brought down the entire Levantine Brotherhood out of pure spite. So what I want to do in this video is dive into the character that is Abbas Sofian, go over his story, what makes him so evil, and how he came to be one of, if not the most evil character in all of Assassin's Creed. Well, at least in my opinion. So let's get right into it. To start off, we need to know a bit more about who Abbas Sofian is, and explore his backstory to understand why he stands out as the most evil Assassin's Creed character. So Abbas Sofian was born in 1166 in Masyaf in the heart of the Assassin state. He grew up with Altair ibn Ahad, a character who we all should know, and they were pretty much best friends as kids. In fact, they often refer to each other as brothers, and you could think of both Altair and Abbas as Woody and Buzz. Actually, no, scratch that, that's a strange comparison. I don't know why those two names instantly jumped into my head. Anyway, it was not all sunshine and rainbows. You see, things took a very dark turn when Altair told Abbas that his father, Ahmad Sofian, had taken his own life, instead of leaving the order like Abbas had always believed. Now, of course, when Altair told him this, Abbas simply could not handle the truth and believed Altair was just lying, which sparked a literal lifelong hatred. Now, what was the reasoning for Altair telling this to him and provoking a traumatic childhood for Abbas that sent him on a dark path? Well, you see, whilst these two were considered best friends, Abbas was always upset and kept to himself because he was always worried about his father's random disappearance. So that's why Altair told him. So now, who is Abbas's father exactly? Well, Abbas's father, Ahmad Sofian, was a member of the Levantine Brotherhood of Assassins, and during the siege of Masyaf in 1176, Abbas's father was captured by the Saracens and forced to reveal the name of the assassin who had killed a nobleman. The name that he gave was Umar ibn Ahad, Altair's very own father. Now, this meant Umar took Ahmad's place and was executed, which led Altair to blame Ahmad for his father's death. Now, here's where the dark turn takes place. Ahmad Sofian was just so consumed with guilt about saying the name of Altair's father, Umar. In fact, he spent his final days just crying out Umar's name, and in a state of remorse, he entered Umar's home, apologized to Altair, and then tragically took his own life by slitting his own throat. So ever since then, Al-Mualim, the mentor of the Levantine Brotherhood, had pretty much run with the story that Ahmad ran away to prevent Abbas from ever being judged for his father's shame. But you see, there was only one person that knew the truth, and that one person was Altair. Now, that's the backstory of Abbas's father and why Altair told Abbas the real truth. So you can essentially see why Abbas might have thought Altair was lying. Of course he wasn't, and from then on, Abbas's hatred for Altair was pretty unhealthy. In fact, it became so unhealthy to the point where Abbas had attacked Altair for demanding to know why he was lying, which of course we know he was not lying. So the more years went by, the more Abbas's resentment for Altair grew stronger. By the time Abbas was 23, Masyaf was under attack by Templars led by Haras, a former assassin. I might make a video on Haras because there was only a few betrayals in this franchise, and this is one of them that's pretty interesting. Anyway, Abbas fought bravely alongside the assassins, but when Altair managed to save Al-Mualim and was promoted to Master Assassin, who do you think had an issue with this? Yep, you already know. Abbas's jealousy boiled over. He spat at Altair's feet, which is a clear sign of his growing hatred and disrespect. Now, if you played through the very first Assassin's Creed game, then you know all about the ending and how Altair managed to defeat his former mentor Al-Mualim after being corrupted by the Apple of Eden. Well, you see, the game ends right there, and the game shifts to Desmond, and then the credits. But there is more that we don't visually see on screen. Well, that is until Assassin's Creed Revelations 4 years later. So after Al-Mualim's death, Abbas scolded Altair for burning their mentor's body, which he deemed sacrilegious, and in a fit of rage, Abbas shoved Altair off a cliff and seized the apple for himself. But you see, if the artifact much power was too much for Al-Mualim, it would be way too much for Abbas Sofian. In fact, it nearly killed him. However, Altair, being the hero that he is, saved him. Yet the resentment from Abbas remained. You know, thinking of it now, Abbas really is a stain to Altair, a person that was just put in this franchise to make Altair's life a living hell, which it indeed was. I sometimes get asked who I think is the most tragic character in all of Assassin's Creed, and my answer is always going to be Altair, and Abbas Sofian plays a massive role in this. Now, years have passed after this, and this is where Altair would rise to become the Brotherhood's new mentor and take over as leader to change it for the better. Well, there was one man who of course opposed this idea, and you guessed it, it was Abbas Sofian. In fact, secretly he pretended to be okay with it, and he didn't really say much out loud whilst Altair was mentor, but in secret, he was absolutely pissed and he still hated Altair. Why was that? Well, he still thought Altair was lying about his father ending his own life. Oh, and by the way, if any of you watching have not read the Assassin's Creed Secret Crusade novel, I highly recommend it. It's definitely for sure the best novel that's Assassin's Creed related, and yes, it is canon. It just provides you with more information on characters you know and events that take place. Also, this is not sponsored, okay? In fact, this next part I'm about to talk about is within this novel, but I'm only going to give a brief explanation because I'd be here for hours if I talked about everything in this book. Anyway, so I mentioned Altair became the mentor and Abbas equally hated this. Well, after this, when Altair left for Mongolia to deal with a situation that was led by none other than Genghis Khan, yep, that's even more of a reason to read the novel. Now, Abbas saw his chance. He managed to put together some sort of small following to undermine the Levantine Brotherhood. He staged a coup, which if you don't know is a sudden and decisive action in politics, often involving a small group violently overthrowing the existing government. In this case, the government is the Levantine Brotherhood. So what Abbas did was stage this coup. He killed Altair's very own son Seth and even framed Altair's best friend Malik. So at this point, let's think about it. Altair lost his father, his previous best friend, his son, and now he's about to lose his new best friend. Pretty tragic stuff, right? And that's just scratching the surface of how Abbas Sofian is such a sinister and batshit evil character. Anyway, with Seth and Malik out the way, Abbas grabbed power. He set up a council with himself at the head and eventually disbanded it to become the sole leader of the Levantine Brotherhood of Assassins. Under his rule, the order fell into outright corruption and paranoia, with Abbas hiding in Masyaf's fortress, constantly being an absolute pussy and fearing for his life. Fast forward around 10 years in 1228, after the whole Genghis Khan ordeal was done, Altair returned to find his son Seth murdered and the order in disarray. The stain that is Abbas Sofian even lied, blaming Malik and later having him killed. This led to a meeting being set up where Altair would meet Abbas with his wife Maria in order to get to the bottom of why Seth was even killed. However, this was never going to work, and it led to a confrontation where Abbas managed to somehow initiate the death of Maria. In fact, we can see all of this in the flashback scenes in Assassin's Creed Revelations when Altair fled, and Abbas took the title of mentor from that point. For 20 whole years, Abbas ruled like a coward, taxing the locals heavily and crushing any dissent, pretty much what we now call a tyranny. In the flashback scenes in Revelations, we also see in 1247, Altair return and reclaim his position. Now when he returned, most assassins were tired of Abbas's tyranny and sided with Altair. This is that badass scene where Altair walks through with the now sided assassins to get to Abbas, and in their final confrontation, Altair used the newly invented hidden gun, fatally putting a stop to Abbas. Now, fun fact, this was the first ever recorded usage of the hidden gun, and thankfully it was on somebody that deserved it, or maybe he deserved worse. Now, you would think that Abbas would finally be at peace, and maybe ask for forgiveness and whatnot, but nope. In the memory corridor with Altair and Abbas expressed the hope that he would meet his father in the afterlife and finally learn the truth, and he even wants to find Altair in the afterlife as well. I mean, talk about committed, right? And that right there is to me Assassin's Creed's most evil character, Abbas Sofian. Now of course that's just my view, and I find him to be the most sinister character in all of Assassin's Creed lore. I'm talking way more evil than the likes of the Borgias, Al-Mualim and all of the other villains. It's Abbas Sofian to me that takes that throne, quite literally. Abbas's legacy is a dark one. By 2013, Abstergo Entertainment, you know, the modern day Templars, wanted to make up some bullshit and wanted to use Abbas's story for propaganda. Why? Well, they viewed Abbas as more of a role model than Altair. It's pretty nuts that the first Assassin's Creed game is the most grounded Assassin's Creed game. The fact that a character such as Abbas almost managed to bring down the entire Brotherhood just out of pure spite shows how evil and corrupt of a character he truly was. I would have loved to see a mainline Assassin's Creed game that depicted more of Abbas's life and made him the antagonist of that game, but beggars cannot be choosers. So yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on Abbas Sofian? Let me know down in the comments below. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and with all of that said, I'll see you in the next one.